Over the last 6 or 7 years, I've incorporated a few habits into my life that have enabled me to work towards becoming the best version of myself. Now, whilst a lot of these things haven't necessarily been taught, it's things that I've figured out along that journey for myself that work personally for me. But today's video, I thought I'd share 6 of the habits that I've incorporated into my life to enable me to become the person that I am today.
So we've been working together for almost the last, 6 years in January?
Yeah, 6 years. I can't believe how quickly it's gone, but how slow it's gone as well.
100%, man. And I've noticed massive positive changes over the last 6 years in all sorts of different ways. Now, I've noticed so many positive changes from the health side, relationship sides, financial sides, spiritual sides. So where do you want to kick things off today? Like, what's the number one thing or one of the big rocks for you?
Yeah, well, I don't have any particular order as to what matters with these habits, but I think the first one comes from a financial aspect as well, because unfortunately the money does make the world go around, and you do need to have money to have a roof over your head, to feed yourself, to do the things you enjoy doing. So I'll start with the first thing, which is paying myself first. Now, this has been a habit that I've incorporated since I got my first job. Mum and Dad, fortunately, always taught us the benefits of saving, of paying yourself first. And I incorporated that from a really young age, probably about 16. And then as I went to TAFE, as I went to university, as I came up here and started working full time, I maintained those budgeting and savings tips. I maintained that habit of paying myself first, which has really enabled me to save up good deposits, to go buy properties, to go on holidays, and to maintain that really good work-life balance as well. So setting up those finances really well and automating that paying yourself first has been a huge thing that's helped me to get here.
I love that. Like, I've seen that habit obviously help you and Tay buy 4 properties in the last 5 years as well. Another one of the habits that I've noticed that you've been super consistent with in the last 6 years is learning. Like, do you want to speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, it's a fascinating thing. Like, growing up and at school, I was never the sharpest tool in the shed. Like, I was certainly never the brightest kid in class. I don't think my teachers ever really knew how to teach me. But then when I went to university, I actually learned how to learn. And then when I actually learned how to learn, it became an amazing habit and a huge part of my life. I like having a really broad understanding of a lot of different things in life. I've really gone granular on the property investing side of things and really spent a lot of time focusing on that, reading books, consistently reading blog articles and things like that, listening to audio books, podcasts, things like that. But then I also just do it in other aspects of life, when it comes to health, when it comes to spirituality, when it comes to sport, things like that. Like, I just love listening to things, learning from other people that have got a little bit more experience from me, because when you get all of these different opinions and different perspectives, it helps you form your own opinion and your own perspective of life, which, has helped make better decisions, I think, as well.
What I love, man, is like, I remember hearing this thing from Jim Rohn years ago, and he's like, you can almost tell where someone's going to be in 10, 15, 20 years based on the inputs they're putting in. Now, in the old days, that was all books or seminars, but these days it can be podcasts, YouTube videos, conversations with other people. And I've just watched you I think consistency is the key there. Like, you consistently put those quality pieces of information in. Good week, bad week, it's just become such a habit. And therefore you're constantly getting ideas where you can stand on the shoulders of other giants and look forward with a bigger perspective.
Absolutely. And for somebody like myself that is young with a lack of experience, it has really helped to listen to older, more experienced people talk about their journeys as well.
Yeah, you can avoid all the fuck ups. So I know I'm jumping because it's not the order, but I sort of accidentally said consistency.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that one.
Yeah, definitely. Like, consistency, I've realized, is key, and it is a habit that you can incorporate into your life. I've dealt with different things in the past where it's like I'll go all in on one thing and then pass another thing to the side. And I've realized that this twists me a little bit internally and it doesn't make me feel very happy. So what I've noticed is that a little bit frequently and consistently is far better than a lot in short bursts of time. So, you know, maybe that's 10 to 20 minutes of meditation a day. Maybe that's 20 to 30 minutes worth of training per day. Maybe that's listening to a few podcasts every single week, listening to an audio book once a month, you know, just constantly incorporating a little bit so it's not too overwhelming, but also so you're still moving forward. So rather than going and trying to increase my knowledge by 40% in 1 week, it's like, if I can just get 1% better in every area of my life every day, man, that's a lot over a lifetime. And that's what I've realized, that consistency is key.
Beautiful. Now, another one of the habits that I'm so grateful you got me onto as well is meditation. And I feel like the structure of your brain changed. Like, you're giving yourself so much space, there's less reactivity, there's more presence. The big moments that obviously come into all of our lives and stress us out, or the big challenges, don't seem to completely rock you as far. And I feel like there's this like just inner calmness going on as well. So like, let's talk about meditation.
Yeah, no, thanks for that. It's cool that people are starting to recognize it, because this wasn't the person that I was. Like, I was a very reactive, very impatient person growing up, and you know, that really burdened the relationships with my family and friends. A lot of the time I found it challenging to, you know, have really meaningful relationships with people. So meditation's been really good for me to quiet my mind, because I do have a very hyperactive, overactive mind. And, you know, I've dealt with, you know, issues from that in the past, and meditation has been the biggest influence in me becoming a better version of myself, realizing that I'm not my thoughts, that, you know, these things are going to come and go like the clouds in the sky do. Just realizing that I can be aware of the triggers that, you know, put me down a negative thought pattern or a positive thought pattern, and I can catch on to them a lot quicker now as well. So, you know, back in the day, I might get anxious, stressed, unhappy, impatient, and I'd hold on to that for days or weeks sometimes. And, you know, it's suffering. And then now, as I told you, like, I still go through those emotional states, but it's a lot shorter. Maybe it's 10 minutes, 30 minutes, a couple of hours maximum. But then because I'm aware of my thoughts and I know that I'm not, I can process them, let them pass, and then go back down a more positive thought pattern as well. So meditation has been hands down the biggest impact on me being able to become a better version of myself, and me being more aware of my mind and my thoughts, which has helped me make better decisions in life as well without being super reactive.
100%. And from an investment perspective, I think investing is spooky. Like, it brings up a lot of fear. Like, one of our clients at the moment runs his own psychology company, and every single time we speak, I feel like I should be billing him. Like, it's just like the fears popping up and the uncertainty and the coming from nothing and being in big debt now. One of the big things that I asked you recently, I was just like flat out, I'm like, why are you so fucking happy all the time? And you were like, dude, it's just gratitude.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the 6 habits for you as well. Like, explain that in terms of not just what it is, but how you incorporate that through your day-to-day.
Yeah, for sure. Like, an attitude of gratitude is a habit that you can incorporate into your life. It's a choice to be grateful for the things that you have, or to not. And I've always been a very optimistic, glass half full kind of guy, always looking on the bright side of life. To my detriment sometimes as well, because I always look at the positives more than the negatives.
There's
and that's
no
why
detriment to that. It's all positive.
Yeah, but it's good. So having that attitude of gratitude, of just like being appreciative for the little things in life. You know, I'm an extremely fortunate person to be born into an upper middle class family, to have a dad who was a business owner, an older brother who was a property investor. Like, there's so many fortunate things that I have in my life that, you know, have compounded and enabled me to experience a really high level of success at a young age. And I feel as though being grateful just grounds me a little bit, brings me back to the basics. Like, I very rarely think about how grateful I am for like the properties that I own or the job that I have. I'm literally grateful for the birds chirping, the sun shining, the sound of the wind, like the sound of the waves crashing down on the ocean. Like I really bring it back to the basics, to the extent where it's like when it's raining, I'm grateful for the rain that you can feed my gardens and my lawns and stuff like that. So I try and separate it from myself to just be grateful for the little things in life, because when you're grateful for those little things in life, when the big things come, it's even more, you're even more appreciative. You're even more grateful for those big things in life as well.
You know, I love hearing that. I heard something that I was listening to on the way to work last week, and they talked about what if tomorrow you only woke up with the things that you were grateful for today?
Yeah.
And so like that's become a massive practice of mine since you sort of got me aware of it. And the other thing that I do every morning, like the first breath I take, I'm like, thank you so much for another day. I know that sounds weird, but like every single day is like a proper miracle that we're still here.
Seriously.
And just being so grateful for that. And, you know, sometimes if you've got kids and stuff like that, like I ask them at night, like what's one thing that you're grateful for today or thankful for, and just getting in the habit. And I think what it does over time when you actually look at the science behind gratitude and meditation is it starts to reprogram your mind, and you start to move from lizard brain to frontal cortex. And that structure of the frontal cortex, when you're grateful all the time, starts to notice the positive in the world and the good things. And then there's this weird thing about the world, when you're noticing and thankful, things come back like overflowing in a positive way as well. It's really weird.
It is a weird thing, you know, what you project, you receive. And if you're projecting negativity and unhappiness and stress and overwhelm, you're going to get that back. But when you're projecting out, you know, positive vibes, gratitude, you're going to get that back as well. Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about that really, really well. If you are looking to learn more about meditation and gratitude and how these things actually biologically influence your mind, check out Dr. Joe online.
Now, the last habit which you've become incredibly good at, and I think every investor has to become good at, is delaying gratification. Like, let's talk about that, because this is such a now world. I want it right now, and such a I'm doing it to keep up or to show other people or to feel ego.
It's so true.
Yeah, but let's talk about how you've been able to do that, especially like since you started investing at such a young age, like when everyone else was burning every single cent they were receiving.
I wanted to. I wanted to burn that coin. Like,
burn that money, man.
Every single time, like, I have to remind myself of, you know, delaying that gratification. And, you know, every time I do something out of emotion or make a quick decision, I end up getting burnt from it as well. Like a cool example of that is like with crypto. I put money into crypto at the very peak of the cycle because I got too overwhelmed and excited about it. I didn't delay the gratification and go, hang on a minute, let's learn about this thing first. So delaying the gratification has been a challenging one for me to, you know, become a habit. Like I am a kind of reactive kind of guy that does like to do things and make quick decisions, and that's been a bit challenging. But I feel as though like consistency with, you know, delaying that gratification and sacrificing what we want now for what we want most. I think that's the thing that's really enabled me to do that. And, you know, it started at an early age. Like I've always drove a pretty average car. You know, even when I had like 4 investment properties and like a really good income, I was still driving around a beat up old 2004 4-wheel drive. Like rather than going out there and spending that money on a nice car, or, you know, going out there and buying a caravan, or going out there and spending money on that holiday, or going and buying those nicer clothes, I knew the impact of deciding not to do that and then saving up that coin to get something that's going to be more meaningful, that's actually going to make me more money. So purchasing appreciating assets instead of depreciating liabilities, it actually creates this compound effect where you're not spending the money on meaningless things, you're spending it on meaningful things, and then it's going to compound and make you more money. And then in the future, it's going to give me more choices to do what I want, to buy the things that I want, to go on the holidays that I want, and I will no longer have to delay that gratification anymore. But it is really important, especially as an investor, to make sure that you're, you know, keeping as much money in your pocket so that you can make better decisions when those opportunities come up.
You know, one of the things that I saw, like, and we all go through this, right? The first time I saved my first deposit, I actually spent it. And then I remember you getting to a point where you'd saved about 20K, which coming off like university is a huge amount of money.
Yeah, it felt a lot.
And just enough to go to Bali surf for 6 months, you know?
Yeah,
like it's
absolutely.
the right amount of money. And I remember you saying, like, I really want to get this downhill bike and I really want to do this holiday. And
it's like $10,000 worth of stuff that I wanted.
Yeah, and you didn't, and you just kept at it, which was incredible. And you waited about another 6 months and then you bought that first property, and that property has since doubled in value. And if you were to knock it down and rebuild, you'd be almost $1 million up from that one decision. And delaying gratification is really, really tough. But if you can do it short term, you know, you've only had to do it. You've completely
5
set up
years.
your foundation. It took me a little bit longer to do it, but I also like, you know, same
You
thing.
didn't have the mentors that I did as well. Like, you know, that isn't necessarily a habit that I have, but it is something that I do have in my life that I think is important for investors, which is having mentors, having support, having people that can talk to you about this stuff. And, you know, you've made those mistakes in the past, and that's when I was going to buy the bike. You're like, Simon, you're literally like $10,000, $15,000 away from buying your first house. Like, just give it a moment. You'll be able to buy 20 bikes in the future.
100%, bro. Like, I think that's a nice one to add at the end. Like, life is way, way, way better shared, and we all need people to lean on, whether that's someone spiritually, whether that's health-wise, whether that's business, whether that's investing, whether that's just good friendships and relationships.
For sure.
Listened to this incredible thing a few days ago. There's a book called Strength to Strength, and it's talking about the things that bring people happiness. And they're so simple, like faith, family, friendships, and fulfilling or meaningful work. And it's like, life doesn't have to be this crazy thing. But I think these habits I can see, like, they're not things that you're talking about doing. It's just how you live.
Yeah.
And you're doing these things without resistance anymore, because you're no longer pushing the rock up the hill and hoping to get somewhere.
Yeah.
The energy and the momentum, you're off the ground, and all you've got to do now is like maintain it. And maintenance is so much easier than like effort to get up.
Absolutely. You know, they say it takes 60 days to build a new habit, and then after that point in time, it just becomes a ritual. It just becomes something that you do inherently. It just becomes a part of your life, and all of these things are no longer a chore for me, except for delaying gratification. And that's a beautiful thing. But it's nice that I get the opportunity to share these things that have helped my life, because that's all we want. We just want the best for everybody. We want people to have a much easier life, a much more free journey through life. And you know, these things have enabled me to have a pretty awesome life so far.
100%. Nah, thanks so much for sharing, bro. It's super inspiring. For all of you guys out there, please subscribe, give this one a thumbs up, share it with somebody. Let's get the positive vibes out there, especially in these times, and let's keep moving forward together. Cheers, guys.
That's a wrap. That's a wrap. Have a
Cool,
spin.
bro. Yeah.
Oh, sweaty. So sweaty. Oh, that's good. That's so nice.